Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Wolcen Lords of Mayhem. I played on the PS5, it's also available on the PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. So in Wolcen, you get to create your own character. You are part of the Children of Hemlock, Hemlock being the Grand Inquisitor of the Republic. He's a military leader, there are a bunch of religious zealots, and you are sent to defeat some of your enemies. And in the process, you run into a demon, and it awakens powers within you, ancient, unexplained powers. Unfortunately for you, the Republic is not a fan of you having these powers awakened in you, and they turn against you and you have to run. But this leads you to the city of Stormfall, where you find out that there is a greater threat than the little war that the Republic is having. The kind of threat that, could destroy the world. Cults and demons and ancient evils and all of that good jazz. Nothing that we honestly haven't seen before or really is told in an amazing manner. It's all good enough, but the twists and turns, you kinda see them coming. Now let's get into the audio, and when it comes to the soundtrack, you see that title screen and you hear that music, you know exactly what kind of music you are in for the rest of the game. It's a bit stereotypical, but it works and it fits. I didn't really have any complaints with it. As for the voiceover work, most of it is better than I was expecting, honestly. Not that it's exactly mind-blowing, just better than I was expecting. Now, as for the sound effects, those are more generic. They work. I have no real complaints with them. But at the same time, nothing about them stood out. The quality's good enough, but it's not amazing either. Now let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a looter hack and slash RPG, just like, a beta that I recently played. You've got your more top-down perspective, which, you would expect from this style of game. You collect a lot of different loot, but I did find that I generally got the best loot from the merchant rather than the stuff I was finding around the world. That stuff was adequate, but I would save up my money, buy one good piece, and then be good to go for quite a while. The leveling is honestly very reminiscent of a certain game. It's kind of hard not to draw comparisons having just played that beta and played this game at about the same time. It's hard not to make that comparison, but it is so reminiscent of Diablo 2. You add points to your attributes, you pick out your skills and how you upgrade them. The one thing, however, that Wolcen does that is very unique, or at least I really don't remember seeing in another game, is your character can be any class at any time. I went with Mage because I was lazy and it's familiar, but had I wanted to be a warrior, all I had to do was equip a warrior weapon. If I wanted to be like a ranger, all I had to do was equip a bow and arrow type weapon, or guns, or whatever. So I think that is actually cool and unique, and you actually pick up items, and that's where you get the different skills. So you collect warrior skills, even if you're playing as a mage, you collect the mage skills, all the different skills, and you can trigger the item and learn that ability. You just don't have to equip that ability. So I actually think that was a cool and unique idea. I don't think that it's really a necessary idea. It's more just like, if the player wants to, they can do it. But the game very much functions exactly like you would expect it to function. You go from area to area, you beat enemies, you collect loot, you complete missions, side missions, you get your XP, you level up, you go back and sell stuff. The one thing that this game does fail pretty hard on, especially after playing the Diablo 4 beta and having played so many other games in this genre, is you can't mass sell things, and all the menus are just a little more complicated than they need to be. They just have extra button presses that they don't need, and they just are completely unnecessary, like I said. And while it's not horrible, it is obnoxious. And it's all the menus. Everything could be smoother, everything could be more streamlined. We have great examples of it, and it doesn't ruin the game, but it does kind of detract from the overall quality, just a little. Also, another glaring issue that I ran into, and probably one of the most frustrating things, was invisible walls. Like, the map shows that I can go this way, and sometimes I could work my way through it, but there were so many times where there was just an invisible wall, and I couldn't get through it, get past it. It was really frustrating. And I guess also on a lesser scale was the ability to trigger, like, going into the next zone. You walk up to it, and suddenly the cue to hit X is just gone, and you have to walk around in circles and finagle yourself and position yourself just right to go through into the next area. That also applied to talking to people, whether it was merchants or, story-related characters. So again, frustrating things. Didn't necessarily destroy the game, but it is obnoxious when you walk up to somebody to talk to them and you didn't hit the queue in time, so you're just like, wait, now I gotta finagle myself to do it. It's dumb and it's shit. Like, honestly, things like that and the menus, it feels like they failed to optimize this game for consoles. Like, some of these features probably wouldn't be a problem if I was playing them on the PC. Having not played it on the PC, I cannot vouch for that. It just feels that way. Overall, I felt like the combat worked well, although I did feel like there were issues with it. My character, being a mage, was predominantly a ranged character, and it's weird. You can, like, lock onto enemies who are off screen, but your attacks don't reach that far. But enemies that are on screen, you can't necessarily lock onto, and your attacks won't go that far. So it's weird, and they really need to fix that to make it flow better. Also, in my case, I had the ability to summon like zombie warriors, and they were a real pain in the ass because they would literally block my attacks from hitting enemies. So that was frustrating. It became better once I had the archer companions. The warrior ones at first were a pain. But also, I do want to say that the number of attacks you get and you can equip is pretty impressive. I mean, you're limited to the number you can equip, but the amount you can have, and you can swap them out fairly easily, and you can level them up individually. It's pretty cool. Now, as for the controls, I think the controls are fine, but again, I think they could be more streamlined. I mean, we have seen other games, and I'm not just referring to Diablo here, where the attacks are much more streamlined. Your ability to use different attacks has been streamlined. But as for moving, as for actually attacking, it wasn't that bad. It works well enough. It just could be better. Again, though, we get back to the menus. Navigating those was weird because there were times where my cursor would just jump from things. I would give it a little tap and it would jump over like 2 or 3 items. Just not the prettiest thing. And let's get into the graphics and visuals. And visually, I like the game. I think the creature design, the armor design, the character world design, all of that is really cool. Graphically, it's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but the real problem I have visually, the biggest problem I have visually with this game, is the cutscenes. They look like dog shit. Like, everything gets crazy blurry, things are vibrating in weird ways. Like, when you pause, oh man, things will vibrate. Like, characters will vibrate back and forth. It's weird and it's just unappealing. But more unappealing is, in the cutscenes, characters look so blurry. I don't understand it. I don't know why it was released looking this way. Considering that this game was originally released like 2016 on the PC in early access and then fully released in 2020 on the PC. You think in that time frame they could do something to make it not look like dog shit on the console? But when you're playing, you're in combat, it all looks good. The number of enemies is fine. Your characters move and look fine. It all works good. The effects for your attacks, that all looks good. It's just so weird that during the cutscenes it looks bad. I like that it's a bright, colorful world. I think that's all cool. I do have some complaints, again, visually. There are times where conversations are happening and you get the subtitles on the side of the screen, but you're trying to dick around in your menu and the text overlaps your menu, and that's just annoying. You're trying to drop items or equip stuff, and it's really, you can't see what you're trying to do. And it's annoying because it's like the perfect time to do those things, but then it blocks your ability to do those things because you can't see it. The other thing I would say visually that I had an issue with, and it's weird, it's when you're picking up a lot of items on the ground, the game will suddenly lag. I don't understand why it did that when I was playing, but it did. And really, that was the only time I noticed frame rate issues. Outside of the visuals, my last big complaint is this game crashed quite a few times on me. It was really obnoxious. And there were times where I lost a decent chunk. Like, not of my character progression, but of story progression. So that was annoying. So to wrap this up, this game cost $50, and I think that's too much. Maybe it would be worth it if I wasn't running into all the little quality of life issues that I was running into, the crashing, the graphics, all of that. I might be able to say $50, yeah, that's okay. But as it stands, we have better examples of this style of game, so I just can't fully recommend it at that price. If it's on sale, yeah, go for it. If this game is like $30 or lower, yeah, absolutely. I would have no complaints at that point. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, what's your favorite Diablo-esque game? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.